It's time for Pod of the Dead. Join us!
Hello and welcome to Pod of the Dead. I am your host Nicholas, and as always, I am with the two ladies, Natasha and Stephanie.
Hello.
Hi.
On today's episode, we are covering the 2016 South Korean horror action film Train to Busan. Prior to homework this week, girls, what do you know about this film?
I knew nothing. I'd never heard of it. So I was kind of going in blind. I just knew it was zombies.
Yep, that's basically the same here. You told us zombies, we watch zombies. So I was like, I haven't. Realistically, there's not a lot of like movies that I've seen that are zombie movies, like especially like more in-depth ones, like other than like the romantic one that came out, like Warm Bodies, I think it was a couple years ago. And then there's been like World War Z and then Resident Evil. Like those are the standards that I know of. So I wasn't really sure what to expect with this.
So you've never watched like the Night of the Living Dead series of movies? You've never seen like 28 Days Later?
Nope.
You've seen some of like The Walking Dead though, right?
Yeah, but that's not a movie. So like I watched almost all of The Walking Dead. I really like that. But yeah, I don't have a lot of like movie experience with zombie films.
I came across this not too long after it came out, like on some streaming services a handful of years ago. And I remembered watching it, but not so, I don't remember it like vividly. The main reason I remember watching it is because our son Wesley, when I said that we were watching this, he's like, oh, we've watched that together. And I'm like, we have? He's like, yeah, it's the one about the zombies and the train and like the father and daughter. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we've totally watched this together, huh? And he's like, oh yeah, we watched it twice together. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh man.
Like, I just watched so many films, and specifically with him, like he's like basically my ride or die horror fan. So like I'll watch about anything with him. And it's just one of those things that's like, maybe I was busy like the second time specifically, it's like maybe I turned it on but I was cooking or something like that. The first time maybe I'd had a few too many to drink, who knows. But I remembered watching it, like there were scenes and beats, but I didn't remember like the totality of the film. So I knew where it started, I knew where it ended, but I forgot like everything in the middle.
He did not though, because he watched it with us. He was with us this week and he was like, I want to watch. We're like, we're gonna watch this movie. He's like, oh, the zombie film. We're like, yeah. So he sat down and we obviously listened to it, or we read it and then had it in Korean. So that was cool. Like I much prefer that. So yeah, he was down to read it, and we were like, well, you have to read all week. We can add this as your reading goal.
Yeah, we can't. I told, because he was like, can't we watch the dub? I was like, we're gonna watch it in Korean. But I'll count it as the next 2 days of your reading because it's like 2 hours. So you can do that. How's that sound? He's like, all right, I'm game. So I was like, cool.
Awesome.
So he just read the entire film, and he's 10. Like he's plenty good at all that shit. So, but yeah, fucking Train to Busan. I've always liked this film. I do remember that. That's why I basically, for Foreign Film February, kind of built it up in a way that's like the first film I'd never seen. I wanted to try something new. Second film, the second film I really wanted you girls to watch with me, obviously High Tension. And then this one I knew kind of going in, it's like, this is one of the most popular zombie films in a long time. It actually won like quite a decent amount of awards.
It should have.
It was in Korea
insane.
And stuff like that. So we'll go over that a little bit after we go through the budget and whatnot. But yeah, I'm happy that we covered this one. So this film came out in 2016, South Korean. How much do you think its budget was? And this is in American dollars and stuff, like everything's like that. So what do you girls think?
Tasha, we
$5 million. Me too. trying my best to just
I know.
think
It's
low.
I know.
guess.
Yeah. Well, with me, it's like I am so $1. No, not really this time. But like this movie has a ton of like extra special effects and stuff, and they're done immaculately in this movie, in my opinion. So,
I don't understand money outside of like thousands. After that, it doesn't.
It just ended it at, I don't understand money.
That's also true. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, why is some movies we watch, like The Void, cost no dollars, and we're like, this is so good, this was made so well, and then you have other movies that cost millions of dollars, and you're like, where did, like Buffy, and like, where did that money go?
Yeah.
To
Buffy really screwed us up.
It
like
did.
figuring
I
out
still
this
think-
money thing.
I think the budget for Buffy was still higher than this.
Oh my gosh!
I don't
Okay,
have-
so Tasha said
I don't have Buffy's.
5.
I don't have Buffy's budget in front of me, but my
It was
memory's
a
telling me it was like
lot.
$12 million.
Yes.
I
Okay,
know
so
it
that's
was stupid. It was
Yeah.
stupid
it
expensive. to
was.
make.
It
Well,
was for
they
more
had-
than what it is.
They had a $10 million cocaine budget. So come on.
That's
There you go.
ridiculous. So for this, okay, so at least I know it's less than 12 because Nick gave it away. So I'm gonna go 9.
9? Okay, so you're saying $9?
Yeah. Yes. Nine cents. Not $9. 9 cents. Where are you?
So
at?
$9 million, and Tasha, you're saying $5 million.
It's 5. Yeah, only
Uh,
because I'm stealing off of what you already said. So.
If we're going by the
I mean, that's what I do with you, Steph.
I know.
if we're going by Price's Right rules, Steph went over, but
Oh,
only
Natasha wins! Yay!
But only-
Yay!
but only by 500,000. It was 8.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was $8.5 million. So, Train to Busan, I'm not going to tell you the gross, but it did really well.
I would
in
like to say that Buffy was $7 million, so this actually had a bigger budget.
Oh,
Okay.
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 20 plus years later.
But yeah, I was going
We
to
can
say that's
sleep
from
well
the
at night.
90s. Okay, yeah.
Fair point. Yeah.
Now look up how much $7 million was in 2016.
Okay, hold please.
It's probably like 27 million.
Yeah, no shit. Well,
When
considering
was this movie?
2016, considering we were just talking to mom and stuff about like how much a house cost when she was
Oh,
born and
that's
everything,
right.
and I literally just wanted to walk into traffic.
You know, it's like $13,000, and
For
then
a house.
everybody's yearly salary was like 6,000 or 7,000, and we're like, we would love it where if we could buy a house for half of our yearly salary,
twice
our
yeah.
twice our yearly salary. I was like, that would be amazing. Now it's like 6 times.
All right, Tasha, what do you got?
So, hold on. I did in today's money, but I need in 2016's money. In today's money, 7 million is 15 million.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. So it's going to be close. I would say it's like 12 probably.
Yeah, it's dollar for
It's-
dollar. Buffy costs more.
It's more.
Yeah, way more.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Crazy.
But all right. So before I get into all of the other stuff, what do you girls think? It did well. Let's just put it that way. It did well.
It
So
better have.
what do you think its box office was? And this is worldwide box office that I've got.
Okay. So I have a question, and maybe you'll have the answer. Did it have a really large worldwide release, as in like in the United States, or was it like half of these movies where it's only in like select theaters?
No, this was everywhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that makes a difference. So zombie.
$24 million.
I'm gonna go with 80.
$80 million.
Damn.
I'm
You're
I'm always doing this.
That is so over.
You're both
No?
too low.
Whoa!
Wow.
So Train to Busan made $98.5 million.
Holy shit!
Wow.
In the United States and Canada alone, it made $15.8 million.
That's pretty good. That's still double.
It made
Their money.
$80.5 million in South Korea. Oh, I'm sorry. It made $80.5 million in South Korea. It made $2.2 million in the United States and Canada. It made $15.8 in other territories.
Oh, okay.
It became the highest grossing Korean film in Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And in South Korea, it was recorded that more than 11 million moviegoers went, and it was the
Wow.
highest grossing film of the year in South Korea.
That's awesome.
It became the first South Korean film to cross the $1 million mark at a Singapore box office.
Okay.
And it also became the highest grossing Korean film in Malaysia and Hong Kong, like I'd previously said. Yeah, this film like just went and fucking did bank. Like,
But it makes sense why. It
yeah,
does.
but it's one of those things. This is you're starting to see, like, in this era, like the 2010s and stuff like that. It's not just Japan that's like Japan and China putting out films nationwide and stuff. You're starting to get a lot more Korean, Indonesian films that are coming out and doing well.
Okay.
Stuff like that across the
So we
the
watched
world.
a Japanese film, and then now we've watched a South Korean film.
Correct.
So my question is, these are completely different overall themes. I get that.
100%.
But, and then obviously they have different cultural things that are more important based on, each country. So my question is, like, and you may not even know this, but I'm wondering if, like, the Japanese movie Pulse that we watched really hit, like, with their standard culture and the way that they make movies for horror on average, and if this is the same thing for, like, South Korea, like, or is this just a one-off? Or are they similar usually?
Well, realistic. When you're saying similar, what do you mean similar?
Well, because, like, certain places have, like, the same types of movies that are popular based because they're an Asian.
I think the big difference, though, between, if we're just going to say, like, comparing this to Pulse and stuff, is something that would definitely make more people interested in going and seeing this film opposed to something like Pulse, is this also has the action twist to it as well. Yeah. So, like, that's going to, like, even if you're not a horror fan and you see, like, the trailers for this movie, you're going to be a little more interested in it and stuff like that. Also, on top of this, like, the fact that not just the fact that it's an action film, the director of this film had done nothing but, like, animated, like, anime kind of films and stuff like that. That kind of, you can see that in the kinetic energy of this movie and everything. Okay. So I think that has a lot to do with it. You're also talking about movies that came out, like, 15 years apart from each other.
That's true. It's based on
completely different marketplaces, completely different styles of film. And I think they were just completely made for different audiences, where one in Pulse was made as a super low budget, I would almost consider it like a think piece kind of movie, where it has to be. This one is definitely more like, as much as I like this movie,
it's an action
movie.
It
is a popcorn film.
Movie, yeah.
It does have some depth.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. Like,
it has tons of depth, but it's so action packed that I would consider it a popcorn movie.
Like, what the fuck's going on? No.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Eddie Izzard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't even know what's going on. I just, because, like, this is definitely a movie you would see it in theaters, be like, holy shit, and then tell your friends, it's like,
this would be amazing.
Let's go see it again. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Before we get into all of that, Tasha, do you kind of want to, now that we've kind of waxed poetic about this movie, do you want to tell us what the fuck we're talking about?
Sure. As you already stated, it's a 2016 South Korean action horror film. It was directed by Yeon Sang-ho and starring Gong Yoo. Also, I'm really sorry if I butcher these names. I just want to throw that out there.
You're attempting, and that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Jung Yoo-mi, Ma Dong-seuk, Kim Soo-an, Choi Wook-sik, and Kim Yoo-sung. The film mostly takes place on a KTX from Seoul to Busan as a zombie apocalypse suddenly breaks out in a country that threatens the safety of its passengers.
That's a good overview. Yeah.
That is what this movie is.
It is.
And, like, reading that, it doesn't give a ton away, because, like, you read that and you're like, okay, it's a zombie movie on a train, so we're gonna have one setting and just zombie melee. Mm-hmm. So I was really happy when it wasn't just that.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. This movie gets compared a lot to World War Z, that has Brad Pitt in it.
Yeah.
Which I guess I kind of get, but I don't fully understand.
No.
For the fact that I think, let's see here. It says Clark Collins from Entertainment Weekly wrote that the film borrows heavily from World War Z in its depiction of fast-moving undead masses, while also boasting an emotional core that the Brad Pitt starring extravaganza often lacked, which I agree with that. But
yeah, that movie was kind of actually boring. Other than it was like I agree about the zombie piece. That is true. That is something that's very
like I guess where they make the comparison is not just the fast moving, but the masses of zombies. I guess I see that because initially when I read that, it was like fast moving zombies. I was like, World War Z didn't invent that. Like that's been like 28 days later. And the Dawn of the Dead remake that came out in the early 2000s.
The climbing aspect of it.
Right.
But yeah,
I drew parallels with I Am Legend.
Okay.
That's what I've never seen World War Z, but the zombie component of it and the like heart of it reminded me of I Am Legend with Will Smith.
I always forget that I Am Legend is that a zombie movie or is it a vampire movie or is it both?
It's a bad movie.
I always thought they were zombies.
I always thought they were vampires because they can't come out in the sunlight. I don't know.
But like the quick pace of it felt like a zombie movie to me.
The only thing I really remember about World War Z was like the blatant, disgusting product placement of like Pepsi in it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I saw it in the theater.
So did I. I was like, okay, and that came out like in the throes of like the zombie boom and everything. But there's a lot, like when it comes to zombie films, my taste for zombie films tend to be like in the 70s and 80s. There's not a lot.
Most of your tastes in horror movies.
Not true. That's not true at all.
I said most.
Yeah.
I would say I'm definitely a lot more what's the word, educated in older horror films. I do watch a lot of newer ones, but like
we're talking about your favorites.
Well, yeah, but that's because, like, for instance, this movie, there's a shit ton of CG and like post work done to make the zombies look a certain way and act a certain way. Where if I'm watching, Day of the Dead from like the early 80s and stuff, it's all practical and it's like super visceral. And that's what I want in a zombie film. But it is what it is. Like, this is a good movie. Like, I'm not taking that away. But British filmmaker Edgar Wright, director of the zombie comedy Shaun of the Dead, highly applauded the film, personally recommending it on Twitter and calling it the best zombie movie that he's seen in forever.
I agree.
So yeah, it was widely like considered to be like critic wise as good. I know that there was some negatives. Okay, yeah, here we go.
It's just that it's too old for it to be the Ebert thing. So we're
no, we got
because we kept hearing about it.
But now we have everybody else online.
Yeah,
correct.
That's true.
Here's a couple negatives. In a negative review, David Elric, I'm going to guess is how you pronounce his last name, of IndieWire comments that as the characters whittle away into archetypes and start making senseless decisions, the spectacle also sheds its unique personality. Kevin, I think his last name's Juggernaut. That's badass. Of the playlist wrote, Train to Busan doesn't add anything significant to the zombie genre, nor has anything perspective to say about humanity in the face of crisis. Sure, it lacks brains, and that's the easy quip to make, but what Train to Busan truly needs and disappointingly lacks is heart. That's insane.
What?
That's not even possible.
The social comment, I disagree with his thoughts on there's no social commentary and the heart part, because you see such transformations throughout the whole movie, and there's like an underlying tone throughout the whole thing, and heart is just bullshit.
Yeah, I agree.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So what other movies came out that year?
Well, hold on. New York Times critic Jeanette Katsoulis selected this film as her critic's pick of the year.
Oh.
Specifically because of its subtle class warfare that it depicts. Which is
I've already been singing its praises.
Yeah.
And I don't do that much.
Yeah. But all right, you're asking about the year in horror. So this movie came out in 2016. Right.
Okay.
Let's see here. We will go with the top grossing films for the year. And the list that I brought up is kind of skewed. So I am going to put in Train to Busan into this list because I know it's budget or not its budget, but it's gross. And they don't have it on this list. So I don't know.
Because this is American stuff?
It must be, but I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Okay.
So we will read the top 10 horror, and I will actually drop off their 10 because Train to Busan makes it in the top 10 for this year.
Okay.
So Blair Witch remake comes in at 10.
In 2016?
Yeah,
The remake.
Remake, not the original.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't even know. Oh, that's terrible. I didn't even know they had one. Okay, go ahead.
The Witch,
Oh yeah, that
Okay.
that's awesome.
The Forest,
What is that?
Ouija, Origin of Evil,
Uh,
which I think I'd have to look. I think that's your boy directing that, Tasha.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I've never seen it.
The Boy. There's a lot of the movies that came out this year. Lights Out.
Okay.
The Purge, Election Year.
oh yeah.
Oh man.
And then in third place would be Train to Busan. Then just inching it out would be Don't Breathe. And then number 1 for the year was The Conjuring 2.
Okay.
So that's kind of what you're looking at for the year that it came out and everything. But that does not reflect, however, what a good year 2016 was for horror in general. Like 2016 is straight up banger year. I didn't realize how good 2016 was until I started kind of researching it. So obviously you got Train to Busan. Split came out that year.
Oh yeah, that movie was awesome. Okay.
The Conjuring 2, Hush came out that year.
Oh wow, he had a busy year. Mike Flanagan did do Ouija, the
Okay.
second one, not the first. So I just looked this up, and you said that was beneath where Train to Busan would fall. Yes.
Correct. Yes, because Train to Busan made, what was it, 80, 89, 85, somewhere in there, $1 million, where Ouija, Origin of Evil, I don't know if that's the second one or what,
Yes.
but it made 35 million.
This says it makes 81 million.
Is it?
So I was wondering if it was the difference between like US versus worldwide. 'Cause just based on my
Gotcha.
Google search.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
taking my research from thenumbers.com, but The Autopsy of Jane Doe came out in 2016. That
Kylie
movie
loves
fucking
that
rules.
movie.
We
Yep.
will be watching that for the podcast eventually. What else came out? Lights Out, The Purge, The Void came out in 2016.
Oh yeah, that movie's awesome.
Terrifier, which is super, super popular right now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, all sorts of shit. Let's see if I can find it. Here you go, babe. This is up your alley. Underworld Blood Wars came out that year.
Yeah.
Oh, is that not a good one?
Was that like the 7th installment of those
Probably?
movies?
Yeah. The Rise of the Lycans is the best one. So.
What about Resident Evil, the final chapter?
No.
No.
Also haven't seen that one.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, like there's a lot of good stuff that came out in 2016. There's also
Yeah,
some
there's
other,
a lot.
there's a couple that I really want to watch. There's I believe, yep, it's another Korean horror film that came out that year that I've been wanting to watch, but it's like 2.5, almost 3 hours long. It's called The Whale. It's called The Wailing. That I want to see. I haven't watched that one. And there's also another one that's supposed to be insanely like visceral. I believe it's French. It's called Raw. It's about cannibalism.
Oh, you can watch that.
Oh,
Just
I
tell
will.
us about it.
Oh, I will. I'll be like,
I don't even want to know about it.
it's so gloopy. I literally, if I could be 100% wrong, I think it's about a girl that ate some meat and has a parasite in it, and it causes her to want like raw meat, and she starts eating people. I think that's I could be vastly wrong.
This is like their version of the Santa Clarita diet or whatever that is.
Yeah. I don't even like Drew Barrymore, but that show is pretty funny.
I adore her, so yeah, that show is funny.
But so before we really get going and everything into this, you guys got anything that you want to champion this week?
Yes,
this year to try and beyond the horror films that we do for this their club. You got anything?
Go for it, Tasha.
Well, you talking about cannibalism just reminded me of a movie I woke up to this morning.
I would like to champion something considering you talked about cannibalism. I have this new hobby. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called cannibalism.
It's called cannibalism. Do it in my free time. No, it's not necessarily even a movie. I didn't like it purely because it's called, first off, it's called Virus. Viral. And
okay.
it's about a worm flu that breaks out. So you talking about that evoked like the same reaction I had through about 80% of that movie, because like they get these like, it's kind of like a zombie movie. Like you get coughed on and the blood like gets into your system, and then you become a host to these like in the back of your neck, and then they try to pull them out, and it's horrible. But if you're into that kind of thing, yeah,
No.
and they like, you can see the tendrils like come out of their mouths, come out of their ears.
So I take it Drew was
Sounds like-
watching this.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Drew, son of a bitch, fell asleep.
He's pulling
and
at you.
left me to watch the majority of it by myself.
So where was this at?
Terrible. I think it's on Peacock, either Peacock or Freevee. It's called Viral.
All right.
And it like follows these like early 20s sisters in like a cul-de-sac kind of. It's like just within their house, but the zombie virus aspect of it's disgusting. So. We'll just say that's mine.
That kind of reminds me of the movie Slither. Have you ever heard of that one?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's by James Gunn, the guy that went on to make the Guardians of the Galaxy films and stuff like that. And yeah, it's about these slugs that take over people, and it just gets all fucking gnarly. Yeah. All right, Steph, what you got?
Okay, so I have two things. The first one is I have a book club that I run locally. And so we had 3 books that we were supposed to read for basically like a 5-week span before we're going to meet together. And I already read one, which I talked about, I think, last week. And I decided to start the second book, which is called Pen Pal. And this was not my pick. This was just somebody else's pick that's part of the group. And then we're like, yeah, we'll do this. This is the main read. We had like our main read and then our other ones that people could read if they wanted to do that or not. And this book is it's in Kindle Unlimited. It is a horror romance, essentially. Did not know that going in. I just assumed it was about a pen pal. It was not. And I got into it and I didn't know what to expect. And I have to say that about halfway through, I don't want to spoil anything because it is one of those books that you probably won't reread. It's like kind of like movies that we watch and you just won't rewatch because it definitely doesn't have the same readability again because it ruins like all the suspense.
The impact of the first listen. Or
or watch.
Jesus Christ, no.
Read or watch. Yeah. So,
every other medium.
Yeah. So when I started it, it reminded me a lot of The Night House, the movie that we watched, and it really starts off that way. She's a widow, and her husband just died in a freak accident, like all these things, like insane. And so I was like, ooh, let's see how this goes. And there's a lot of creepy stuff that happens in it. And I got about halfway through and I was like, I don't know if I like this book or not. I think I'm going to hate it. I was telling the girls this. And then I got towards the end and I finished it. I think I took 2 days to finish it essentially. And I 5-starred it. This book was so good. The ending was phenomenal. It is definitely something that is romantic, but it's not, there's a lot of spicy scenes in it, which, but yeah. So Pen Pal, I definitely recommend that for people who like suspense, like horror-esque books with spicy parts. It was really, really good. And then the second thing is we got a new fridge this week and it makes 4 kinds of ice and I'm so excited and our kids are excited. I think I might be the most excited one, even though I don't really love ice. I just like the idea of owning a refrigerator that does 4 kinds of ice. It's fancy and it's clean and it looks great. And yeah, so we got a new fridge.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah.
Moving on up. Let's see here. I've got a lot of things that I can share, but I'll pare mine down. I'll give you guys a movie first. I watched 2021's Werewolves Within. It's a horror comedy / whodunit kind of thing. So this movie is very closely, to me, it reminds me a lot of the social deduction board game called Werewolf, where there's a group of people and one of them is a werewolf and you're trying to figure out who it is. So the movie is basically about this small little town, like up in, it's like Montana, I think. The town's called like Beaverfield or some shit like that. And it's just this like group of people, like all different kinds of walks of life. There's a lot of like, what's the word? Like parody, like characters. So you've got like your your like rich gay couple that are like, oh, like the poor people and stuff. It's like, we're not rich. It's like, babe, we've got like over $1 million. We're kind of rich, like that kind of stuff. You've also got like your this is pre-Trump and stuff, but you got like your MAGA couple that just like everything is like they've got guns everywhere and they're fucking just like, so it's literally like this weird kind of like depiction of like all these caricature kind of things, and then they're stuffed into like the local hotel or bed and breakfast kind of thing, because all the power in the town went out and they're getting picked off one by one by some sort of werewolf, or that's what they come to the conclusion of, and they're trying to figure out who it is and all this stuff. I watched this with Wes. I believe it's probably rated R, but it's not super graphic with the violence and stuff like that, but it was pretty funny. He loved it. He loved the whodunit aspect of it and everything. So I'd been wanting to watch this for a while and finally got around to watching it. So Werewolves Within, I'm trying to remember what I watched it on. It's streaming somewhere. I don't think I watched it on Shudder. I might have though, but it was streaming. And then I didn't actually find any new bands or new albums this week, but I did listen to some stuff that has been out for a while, so I'll just make it real quick. I started listening to Bjork again. So Icelandic pop star that's been around for fucking ever, and she makes like really weirdish, like if you're thinking of like your standard pop music, it's not like that at all. I was listening to her album Vespertine a lot this week. It's a very what's the word? Very intimate album. The whole album is like super sexually charged and stuff like that. And then I was listening to a couple one band is relatively new. They're supposed to have their second album supposed to come out this year. They're called Fleshwater, and their album that I've been listening to came out in 2022, and it's called We Are Not Here to Be Loved. It's definitely got a lot of kind of grunge aspects to it and like some shoegazy stuff, but it's a side project of like a hardcore band, so it's got some like hardcore tendencies to it. Dual fronted vocalist, male and female, kind of dreamy vocal lines and stuff. So, and then the other one, I actually just sent this to Tasha earlier as something to listen to while she was grocery shopping, is a band called Super Heaven. Their album Jar. They only put out 2 albums. They ended up breaking up and created another band with a couple members. But Super Heaven, their album Jar, definitely has like this post grunge feel to it. Like if you like a lot of like early 90s, some like Smashing Pumpkins or even like Nirvana, it's got touches of that, but then also it definitely has like some shoegazy elements where like big reverb kind of things, and again some dreamy vocal lines. So like if you're a fan of stuff like I said, Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, even Deftones, this would kind of be in that wheelhouse. So Super Heaven, Fleshwater, Bjork, that was my week in music, and then Werewolves Within. So there you go.
Yay.
All right. So it's movie club time.
Yes.
If this is your first time listening and everything, welcome. This is a movie club. From this point forward, we are going to be spoiling Train to Busan. So if you've not watched Train to Busan, go watch it right now. You have no excuse not to watch this movie.
It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
That's where we watched it, I think. So.
Yep. But watch it, come back. The last like 10-15 minutes of the episode, we give out homework for our next episode, so we can all watch it together and talk about it next week. But yeah, this is a movie club. Please contact us online. I'm trying to be well, not just me. We're just trying to be more
present.
Yeah,
social. This is like, I'm thinking about like almost quote unquote rebranding this whole thing as like, it's like Pod of the Dead. Instead of being a horror movie podcast, it is a horror movie club. Like that is the key focus of this. So might as well. Anyway, without any further ado, we are going to last chance. Spoiler warning. I don't want to hear it. If
You
if you're
stay.
stuck
It's your own fault.
Yeah.
Goddamn right. All right. We're going to talk about Train to Busan.
So if you want to be a part of our club, you can find us at facebook.com/podofthedead or else on Instagram at pod_of_the_dead or on TikTok at podofthedead. If you want to email us any questions, any complaints, or movie recommendations, you can email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com.
Yes.
And with that, I want to hear those 10 out of 10s for this movie.
Okay, Tasha.
You will get it. An overall excellent movie. A friend of mine recommended this movie. In his words, it would be, quote, a kick-ass Korean zombie flick. So naturally, I went to this movie expecting another generic, dumb, goofy zombie splatter film. Boy, I was in for a surprise. First of all, the acting is spot on. All of the actors are doing a tremendously great job, but for me, little Soo-yeon Kim totally nails it in one of the best child actors' performances I've ever seen. I 100% agree with that statement.
I do too.
She was beautiful.
She was amazing.
The girl ruins me emotionally.
I know.
Yes.
She's so good.
Man. The zombie actors are also truly exceptional, and they manage to spook you without having to rely heavy on prosthetics and rotting flesh. Mhm.
True.
Secondly, the cinematography is amazing. Although the whole story is taking place during daytime, the film manages to make you feel claustrophobic and constantly nervous without having to rely on cheap tricks such as jump scares or low lighting conditions. The cuts are seamless and the colors great, and though different from Hollywood standards, it's generally really a good looking movie.
Yeah.
What really captures me though in this film is the drama. In this genre, the characters are usually very generic and one-dimensional, though this flick is, at first, not so different from this aspect. As the story carries on, we witness the shifting between dynamics of the characters. We see their personalities evolve and change. We find out about their motives, their relationships, and the depths they would go for their loved ones. I personally found myself very emotionally invested in the characters. I'm getting chills reading this because I remember those parts. Man, I was actively rooting for them and was really moved by the movie's finale. Don't get me wrong, though. This is not some melodramatic drama flick. This is still an awesome zombie apocalypse movie. It is fast-paced, it is action-packed, it is gory, it is tense, it is terrifying, and it will keep you on the edge of your seat. It is also original. It doesn't play around and will surely satisfy even those hardcore fans of the genre. However, it is also a film you will remember for its awesome story and characters and for being an overall great movie.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
I can agree with most of that, I suppose.
I will say I wasn't rooting for all of the characters.
Well, no. God, no.
I was rooting for the old guy.
No, you were not.
Oh man, so many times I wasn't.
I know.
What, you
That was
didn't like the
horrible.
old businessman?
No,
I
he
did
was
not like the old businessman.
horrible. But he played a really good personality in terms of like what you would expect people to act like during something like this would happen. So.
Right.
Yeah. Justice for Yeon Suk. That's what I'm saying. Justice for Yeon Suk. He just wanted to get home, guys.
I don't fucking care. I wanted to see him get intestines ripped out, slow
I know.
death.
That's actually probably one of my quote unquote problems with this film. I like this movie, don't get me wrong, but I like my zombie films at least a little bit gloopy. And this movie is like as quote unquote intense as it is. It's the violence
really
is
bloody.
the violence is definitely like subdued a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's more shocking on a social commentary side of it versus I think we've mentioned earlier than like a visceral bloody, and I really liked that out of it.
Yeah.
I could have done with some more gore just because I prefer having some of that, but I liked the aspect of this because the zombies turn as fast as they do. So I thought that was really cool too, because a lot of times that's not how these work. And you also got the speed behind them in this, and we were kind of debating that when we were watching it, like the rules behind it. Why do we believe this is, like, do they get slower as time goes, or they're always fast? Like, it's, I don't know, because it's like a viral thing. So in this movie,
yeah, it's not the undead crawling out of the graves. It's not Return of the Living Dead or Night of the Living Dead. It's definitely more on that 28 Days Later. It is a viral outbreak of some sort. They don't really go into it too much. You do find out that it has something to do with the company that Sek Woo, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
I call him the dad.
The dad, yeah.
Yeah.
That he, like, the company that he works for or works with has something to do with, but
yeah, I was hoping they were going to go a little bit more into detail about that, because you really only hear it. At least I only caught it in that one like phone conversation with his assistant or the analyst.
Correct. And
you hear about it twice, because in the beginning opening of the movie.
If you do want more information about that, though, the director made a prequel to this that is an animated prequel. And then he also, I believe he made the animated prequel. I believe. Don't get me wrong on that one, or don't hold me to that, but I know it exists.
Gotcha.
But he then did also direct a sequel to this that runs parallel to the movie. So it's a different group of people going through the pandemic, or however you want to consider it. So if you like Train to Busan, there's kind of a universe that's been built. There's a prequel anime that I guess would actually probably answer some more of those questions and stuff like that. And it's just a movie. I don't believe it's a series. And then, yeah, there's a tandem sequel. So it's kind of cool.
All right, so let's do this 1 star. I'm not going to agree with this one. This makes sad.
Oh, I'm going to. Not really.
No, you're not. Okay, this is really long, so let's see if we can get through this.
Yeah, the reason you got that long one is like every other review that I found was like a paragraph, and I was like, that's not enough. That's not enough to actually convey a reason for not,
or to give something that's valid in their perspective. Yeah,
just saying like it's dog shit. It's like, that's not an answer. Sorry.
With a movie like this, you really need to plead your case why you would only give it one.
Correct.
Star.
And a 10. Like, if you're giving it a 10, I'm one of those people, like, if you're gonna fucking champion something or you're gonna shit on something, I need legitimate reasons, period. You can't say it's 10 out of 10. Why? Because it's awesome. That's
why is it awesome?
Yeah, there's got to be reasons.
Or why is it shitty? I find it very hard to have movies that would even be a 1, unless it's just absolute trash. But like, that would be really, really hard to come by. I know Tasha's a little harsher than me with it comes.
I gave a 1.
I think so.
I think you've given a movie a 1.
It was possibly Buffy. I don't know what else I would have.
Yeah, I think you did give it a 1.
It might have been that, and there might have been another one that was really low. I know I gave Pulse a 2 because I did not like that movie, but I think that's the lowest I would probably go, unless it was one of those. I wanted to give The Exorcist that one too.
Like, I feel like Buffy was a 1 because I didn't even sit down and watch the whole thing. So, like, that's my standard of I was up and moving and hanging out with Y. So, like, that's a 1 category for me.
You even said that Wyatt was like, this is not good.
Yeah. If an 8-year-old knows that a movie's terrible.
That's true.
Can we watch Paw Patrol? I don't know what 8-year-olds watch.
I don't know.
Not Paw Patrol.
Yeah, I figured. Okay, so here's our 1 out of 10. Some of the characters' behaviors in this movie are laughable. So this is somebody from the UK, because they use the way that they
use.
Yes, they use. For example, the first time the passengers got out of the train only to find the station infested with zombies. What was their reaction? Run back and open the door to a car already full of zombies. Smart move, people. For another example, a bunch of survivors in car 15 refused to open the door for another group of survivors because some guy feared the other group might be infected. Actually, one easy solution would be for the survivors in car 15 to move to another car, for example, car 16, and let those people have 15. Car 15 was not only a safe space, but they were too dumb to make room. Those idiots.
That's what they did, though. They ended up moving them out, didn't they?
But what they did was they were holding their ground in 15. So they made the people that were coming in move. They
Yes,
weren't allowed to be in the same spot. So it wasn't about just
But
going to
when-
a different car, because then car 15 people, including the asshole, would have to do something.
Understandably so, though. Like, no, like this is where, like, yes, he's an absolute asshole and all that shit, right? But none of them understand how this is contracted, how long it takes for it to get. So realistically, like, as much as an archetype fucking villain that this guy becomes by the end of the film and stuff, a lot of that stuff, even to that point, I can see being pretty realistic in this situation. Like,
Well,
when
it's like
you-
save yourself, and
when
that's
you
what you're
see-
doing.
when you see everything that's outside of your train car going the way it is and everything, and these people miraculously made it all the way through, why even chance it? As horrific as that seems, it's self-preservation. So I
agree.
it's after that he
Yeah.
goes, like, he jumps the shark of being relatable.
Yeah. Well, I still think that part was bad because, like, you still have the empathy because you're following the characters that you like in the show. So,
Right.
like, that makes
Yeah.
a huge difference. But yeah, he's a douchebag, but he's an understandable douchebag because, I mean, I think a lot of people would act that way in the same situation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like not letting people on or stay on a ship or something because you don't know if they're infected. You want to throw them overboard, because you don't want to share your resources if they're sick or, whatever it is. So
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
self-preservation.
Correct.
If you being nice to someone and then it ultimately killing you is not necessarily what you want in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But the
Yeah.
part that really bothered me in that is the baseball player is talking to his friend. So there's an outside connection with these people. It's not completely blind as to who's
True.
coming in. And I also have a really bad problem with the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So that dude was just the loudest guy and he
Yeah.
switched and swayed everybody. And I
Yep.
instantly started to hate him from that point on.
I agree.
Absolutely. Like,
Even before then, actually, he's just
He
a
was-
dick in the entire
was.
movie.
He was.
He's self-righteous.
Well,
He's
we'll
just
get-
an ass.
we'll really get into, like, where they were talking about, we'll let Steph finish in just a second.
Yeah.
the review. But when they're talking about the negative review earlier, talking about, like, whittling down these, like, archetypes or whatever, there definitely is, like, there is just, like, almost color by numbers when you're plugging in some of these characters
True.
and stuff like that. That doesn't undermine the plot or the emotional response, but it definitely, I think the reason that you love a certain character and you fucking hate a certain character is because they are so, like, archetypical. I don't fucking know. They're literally
Stereotypical archetypes.
there you go. They're almost color by numbers of, like, how can we make someone just the coolest, bestest, whatever, guy, and how can
Scarf
we make
guy.
yeah, and how can we make someone just the most repugnant, fucking vile person? And they do that. So
They do.
And they do it really well. Like there's
Yeah.
a natural component to it where it doesn't seem like the businessman is overacting. It doesn't seem like
no, he does
No.
an
Scarf
amazing
Man
job.
is they do a beautiful job. Like the acting is so good. Like you, without even realizing how much you love and hate somebody, you love and hate somebody.
Yeah. Agreed.
Very well done.
All right, continue,
Okay,
Steph.
so the beggar's character's heroic move at the climax makes no sense. He had always been portrayed as cowardly. Therefore, the sudden 180-degree change is not convincing at all. That's not
That's
true
fair.
at
I
all.
think it's
no, it's
fair.
not. I do not. She is a pregnant woman about to be squished by a thing, and he doesn't think he's going to be able to get out, and she is. And therefore, he is like, okay, if somebody's got to get out, it's the pregnant lady. That makes complete fucking sense to me.
Right. And
doesn't
it goes
to-
from that
doesn't to me on-
cowardly.
Go ahead.
It goes from that cowardice to have like being brave. And there's
Yes.
a lot of switches there are a couple switches like that throughout the movie.
Mhm.
Going from save yourself to save everybody. Like there's and I think that he is just another person a part of that.
I
Yep.
just don't see his actually warranted. Like, I understand, like, that it is a character arc. I just don't see it as being something that gradually gets there. It just is like he's cowardly and then he's not. And I'm not saying that I agree with their stance on it. What I'm saying is I completely can see their stance on it.
I don't see it necessarily as a slow burn or a character arc, more so like this is yet another person sacrificing
Yeah.
for somebody else.
Well, he gets sacrificed, like this guy comes back for him, or he's going to die in that one car. And so like this is his way of doing the same, essentially.
Right.
And he's already the one facing the bad guys. They're on his side, the zombies are. And so it's like, what do you do? Do you both possibly die? Do you stand up and take the brunt of it to save this pregnant woman? Yeah, that's what you fucking do. And that's what he does. And like, I think that made him go out with a really good like feeling, instead of us just being like, why is this dude here? Because he's kind of like the side character that doesn't have a whole lot of point to him. Most of the other characters do, but he is kind of like that silent follower that we don't really have a built-up relationship with.
I think his is mostly like he's another archetype. He is the polar opposite of the businessman, and to show him become completely selfless for no reason is his reason, like as a character, because you see that this movie deals a lot with like social class and all that stuff, that literally like the highest up that we're kind of portrayed as the highest classed person in here is the most selfish and stuff like that when
dad.
Push comes to shove. No, not the dad.
Oh, the
other
businessman.
businessman. That's
And
true,
then
too.
the dad.
And the dad. Yeah.
Well, and I guess we can kind of talk about it, but hold on. But then like the homeless man or supposed homeless person, you see him like literally just get to the point where it's like, these people have helped, I'm just going to sacrifice myself, whatever. So it's like the polar opposite. And when you're talking about the top tier against the bottom tier, or however you want to look at it, I'm not trying to be fucking like insensitive, but like I think that's more the point of it, which I get it, but at the same time, like I said, like it seems kind of out of the blue in a way to me. But
okay. Let's not forget the laughable ending. The little girl suddenly felt like singing after the disaster. Yeah, very interesting. That makes complete sense too. But hold on, we'll talk about that in a minute.
I was sobbing.
I know. It would have been better, so much better, if the soldiers had killed both the pregnant woman and the girl. What kind of dark ending would that have made him? That would have made it impact. The current one is in the movie is ridiculous. The plot was predictable. You could always guess who was going to die next. The movie is not even scary, and the amount of gore is atrociously little, which I agree with that.
yeah,
I
and
guess-
it isn't scary.
No, it's
No.
not. I agree. The only good thing is the opening scene where a deer became a zombie deer, and that was interesting enough.
I don't like this person.
I know. And like the ending makes complete sense. So it's not about
Yeah.
the girl
The s-
singing.
well, the
There's
singing-
twofold.
The singing makes sense because they allude to it at the beginning. They even touch on it in the middle, and then you get it at the end because she was in class singing. Her dad wasn't there, that's why she couldn't finish it. So then she has that talk with her dad later on in the movie, and then there at the end, it's literally "Aloha" is the song that she's singing, and
Right.
it's super sad. Like
Very. Oh my
And
God.
she's talking about like, I'll get to see you again someday. And
little does she know, there's nothing after life.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and also I think there was a part of it of they're walking into that area, and you don't know what that pregnant woman could have said to her or anything, and they could have been concerned of whether or not people could hear them, because like she's singing, they're walking through there, they think that they're at safety, and it could be the same reason of like letting people know that they're alive.
they're
Instead
people.
of yelling, we're alive, like
Well-
you see as like standard stuff.
And my thing, like where this reviewer is like, oh man, wouldn't have it been better if they killed them at the end, right? Not saying that their opinion is right or wrong, but you can't even close to say that that's an original ending, because that's like Night of the Living Dead that fucking happens. Like the first, what we think of zombies, the George Romero film Night of the Living Dead that came out in the 60s, that's how that fucking movie ends. Sorry, spoiler dropped on that one. But the guy that you're with the whole fucking time makes it through the night, looks out the window for safety, sees people, and those people shoot and kill him because they think he's a zombie. That's how it ends. So, to say that would make this movie better, I think that reviewer went into this expecting a different film, which I can completely understand. If you're going into this expecting a very dark, grotesque, violent film, you're not going to get it.
Mm-mm.
But it's also not trying to be that.
No,
Back to the ending, that's kind of where I expected it to go.
You thought they were going
was so
to
I liked that there was a spin to it because they build that tension and then you get to and release that and be like relaxed and emotional instead of like, damn it, I knew that was going to happen. Because as they're talking and they tell them to, they tell them to terminate them or whatever, like it was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. They see these people walking, this is where it's going to go, it's going to suck. And then it didn't.
Yeah, I agree. I actually thought they were going to shoot the pregnant lady and then the little girl was going to end up screaming and then that was going to alert them. And so the pregnant lady was going to die and the little girl was going to be the only survivor. But I'm glad that's not what happened. Like this was a lot cleaner of an ending, but it's because they put you through so much emotional turmoil through the whole movie. They damn well better give you something to have some light at the end of the tunnel, quite literally. And so that made it so much better because I think it was a good payoff at the end of a lot of crying.
Yeah.
So.
I get teary-eyed in this film on the train scene at the end.
Yeah,
that's the only time. It's not even the dad. It's just the girl's reaction and stuff.
She's a phenomenal actress in this. My lordy.
Yeah, but what I was alluding to earlier and stuff, like when we're talking about archetypes and all that shit, you literally have a spectrum that this movie is built on. On one end, you have was it Sang-ho, the soon-to-be father?
I call him the husband.
The husband. You have him on one end of the spectrum of
he's amazing.
He's cool. He's funny.
He has nice muscles. He's attractive.
He's just a good all-around guy. Like he's like a good guy.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Yeon Suk, the businessman.
Yeah, he's
and
a douchebag.
He is just a piece of shit, like all the way through the film.
For sure.
And then in between there, you watch Sok-woo, the dad, go from one end of the spectrum to the other. Like that is it. Like you literally, they gave you 2 field goal posts. And they move him down
in the middle,
track to the end of the movie.
That's true. And he's likable by the end. So.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying is like his is a gradual moving. You see, like scene by scene, you see him evolving as a person and like taking on the influence or whatever. Of Sang-ho, the husband, muscle dad.
Yeah, and also his daughter.
Correct. Well, she from the get-go though is so much like her mom. It's alluded to where because like Sik-woo says like you need to worry about yourself. You need to stop worrying about everybody. You need to stop being so nice. All this stuff, and that's where I'm talking about when it comes to the homeless gentleman. His character development of just going from scaredy cat to like sacrificing himself when you have that stuff kind of happening through the film, every single other character makes sense. Because like when Sang-ho passes, like dies and stuff like that, you know that like that is part of his character. And when you see the businessman just be an absolute shitball, like you just get to watch him get worse and worse and worse as Sang-ho gets better and better and better. And then Sok-woo is like going from one end to the other, where the homeless gentleman is just like, and I sacrifice myself. So I do get like that idea of it seems unwarranted to me in comparison to literally all of your other characters that
I mean, he's just not an important character in the storyline. And kind of the same thing with like the sisters. Is that what they are?
Yeah.
Like
forgot about them.
They you could tell from the beginning that they were going to use them as like not main characters, but like the second tier characters and follow their storyline to some degree. And you do, and they're kind of like the homeless man where they have a point and a purpose in the storyline. They follow them enough to give them something, but they don't follow them enough to make them that important.
Yeah, because they're just plot devices.
Well, but enough that you have some mild character development and some mild relationship with them.
I legitimately see no character development in the sisters other than the one sister gets turned, so the second one just like fuck it and opens the door. Her whole purpose in the movie to me is to open the door to cause problems in car 15. And then the homeless
I saw that too.
And the homeless guy, his whole purpose is to be someone to sacrifice there at the end
to save the pregnant lady.
That isn't the dad, the pregnant lady, or the daughter. But there's no character development. They're just they're no different than having a gun lay there to use it.
And I'm looking at it more from like an SES standpoint too. So you're talking about like
What's SES?
Social economic status.
Okay.
So you're seeing, like, we've talked about like community versus like all for one. Nope, I said that wrong. Like individualism versus like help out your fellow man. But there's also these different layers of like economic status, because you have, like, we've talked about the businessman, we've talked about the dad, we've talked about the husband. Those are kind of the
husband.
Those are kind of the top three. And then you have the high school students who are there just as sacrificial lambs, essentially. And then you have the sisters, and then you have the homeless man. So you can kind of see which within that they have their own kind of categories there too.
See, I don't see that with the high school students being sacrificial lambs personally, because
one of them literally got sacrificed by the businessman.
I'm specifically taught. Well, yes, but like I don't see that as yes, she gets sacrificed. Is that who you're talking about? The girl?
Mm-hmm. The girl, yeah.
Yeah. But I see it as you're witnessing everybody else are adults dealing with this problem, and they are the ones that you're seeing. And I'm not saying that they're amazing or anything like that, but you are seeing there is a storyline with them of getting separated and trying to get back together and stuff like that, and young love and all that stuff, because at the very beginning she's into him but he's embarrassed and everything, and then once shit hits the fan he's like, there's no point in being embarrassed if I'm going to lose her, like that kind of stuff. So their characters make more sense to me than the sisters or the homeless man personally. Like
they all have different parts though, I think, like Tasha said.
Yeah, no, I fully do, but I think that the high school couple are more than just being a plot device.
Yeah, I think that they play a lot on like the divorced or almost divorced husband or father /father, and then we have the happy married couple about to have the baby, and then we have the lonely businessman who's a freaking douchebag that you expect, and then you have the homeless guy that's alone, and then you have the young love. So, and then you have the old sisters that grew old together and they're bonded. So like you got a little tidbit of every single type of character that you could think of that would make sense to have in this, to see what their characters would do in this instance in a viral outbreak where a bunch of zombies decide to fucking wreak havoc.
And I like that in this you can see different, like, we're able to put different categories for a lot of these characters, which I think is different than just having your standard archetype. Like they fill multiple roles, they fill multiple like social pieces.
Yeah. Well, like the baseball guys being there was just so there was bats, right? And then so we had more fodder for killing people. But
also not, because you have that scene where he then has to kill his, or like take on his zombified friends, which is just tugging at the heartstrings at a whole different level.
Yep. Yeah.
See,
so I think they do a good job at that.
They make, like, that's why I say like the high school kids make way more sense, because there is a lot more going on there. They don't focus on it as much or anything like that, but there definitely is like its own little side plot going on.
Yeah, I think that the movie has a lot of little ones like that, which I like. Even with the dad and like his business, like just being on the phone, talking to people, trying to find a place to go, and like trying to, talking to his mom and like listening to her literally get killed on the phone. Like you have all of these little pieces that like build their character development. The kid walking into the car and then having to face all of his friends and not knowing what to do, because like, do I kill these people even though they're not my friends anymore, because now they're taking over and I don't know, because we literally got plopped into this fucking world like of everybody's now crazy. And I love the way the zombies look in this, in the sense of like, yes, I would like them to be more like maybe a little more grotesque, but their blue eyes in this and the way their bodies move is just perfection, and it shows like a good way without having to add all the gore and stuff, that you can still make a zombie and it be very, very like I don't even know what the word is. It's just, I like the way that it was done. Yeah. It was done really well.
Yeah. The team tried to reference the movements of zombies in the game 7 Days to Die and the movements of the dolls from Ghost in the Shell, and also, here it comes again, the movements of the nurses in Silent Hill. So that very like jerky kind of reaction and stuff, which I always like that when it comes to the idea of reanimation, because it's to reanimate. You're not bringing life back, stuff like that. It is reanimating, so it's not going to work normally.
Yeah, it's twitchy and mechanical and off.
Yeah, I like that about it a lot, because I haven't seen a lot of movies that you can have it be done that successfully without adding, a lot of extra, special effects and all that stuff to it. It was done really well.
Yeah, like I said, like previously, like we'll just kind of go back into this a little bit. Like this movie was extremely popular, right? Like we know about excuse me, my God. We know about, I'll cut that out. We know about the money that it made and everything, but it won like a decent amount of awards and stuff, like the Blue Dragon Film Awards. It won the Audience Choice for Popular Film. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. It's BUIL, the Buell Film Awards, Best Supporting Actor for Muscle Dad.
Yay! Whoa. He's my favorite character.
And then the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, which is an American horror publication. It won both Best Foreign Film.
Cool. Oh, cool. Yeah.
So for that year and everything.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. This movie's good. I think it's definitely like, what's the way to put it? I would use this as gateway horror personally.
Okay.
In the sense of like, not, this sounds derogatory, but like baby's first zombie film, because it's so action forward that it can give you the zombie touch without it being overly gory. It's still giving you like the dramatic aspects of a film that you would kind of expect and everything. So like, it's one of those things, like if I were to, like, you've never seen horror films or zombie films in particular, this is probably the one I'd be like, this is, get your feet wet with this one, and then if you can get down with that, we can go further down the pipeline. But that's just how I look at this film.
I think it's so different than most zombie movies. So maybe not like your first zombie movie, but maybe into like horror in horror in general, because
I don't know, like when you're talking about like more recent zombie films and stuff like that, like I literally think of like this, 28 Days Later, stuff like that, like because you've seen 28 Days Later, right, Tasha?
Yeah,
like wouldn't you kind of compare this, like obviously there's more like violence and stuff in 28 Days Later. It's a lot darker film, but at the end of the day it's kind of a very similar film,
I guess. But even with that, when I think zombie movie, these aren't the types of zombies I think of. This isn't the character development that I think of. I think of being, holed up in a house, or more like The Walking Dead.
I'm not saying prototypical.
The Last of Us type.
I'm not saying prototypical. Okay. I'm just saying, like, if you've never seen a zombie film and you don't want to scare someone away, and you want to be like, hey, you want to check out a zombie film? You want something a little different? Here you go. Like, same with like.
That's the key. A little something different.
Yeah, like, and when I'm saying something different, I'm not, because they have no frame of reference,
correct,
right? So everything's going to be different, but they'll be able to be like, oh, I've seen action films, right? And it's like, all right, let's take that, and if you put like World War Z or this, I would give them this. 28
correct.
Days Later, 28 Days Later or this, I would still give them this, even if they're going to have to read it or have a dub. I think that this is a more quote unquote enjoyable watch, because it is a quick movie, where like 28 Days Later and stuff, it is a very isolationist. It's a slower movie, except for when it's fucking not and stuff like that. And this movie doesn't really have that. It's puts on the gas basically the whole time and stuff. And I wouldn't have been surprised if they're supposedly making an American remake that's called Train to New York, but it's going to have an Indonesian director that's done a lot of like super cool like martial arts kind of action films and stuff like that. So hopefully that's cool, but I could also see them just being like, and we're going to have the dad as Jason Statham.
Yeah, which would ruin it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about like zombie films, the first thing I thought of was like watching this is comparable to like listening to Bright Eyes, Digital Ash, and the Digital Urn, and then expecting that from all of his works. So,
okay. I guess I
mean, like
that.
it's so different.
Such an outlier.
I picked this as being so different than the general overview of what a zombie movie can be.
I agree. Okay. And
Thank you for everyone getting that reference.
Yeah. But I think it's the emotional depth that you're going to have in this in comparison. So this is not your standard action film. As much as we're talking about this being a horror action film, the depth of emotional relationships in this and how much of a character arc we have, as well as how much we're following this, because I sobbed twice in this movie. That just tells you a lot. This movie definitely hits differently because I haven't seen very many horror movies that are going to get you in the feels to this degree in terms of actual relationship building and just the pulling at the heartstrings, essentially. And so there's an action component of this, and then you have your horror component, which is mild in comparison to most horror movies, and then you have your dramatization, relationship, familial relationship build. So you have three really deep pieces that you are building this, and I don't think most horror movies have that, all three combined. And then the pacing was really good, and then also the quality of film. And that's the other thing. Like, I didn't go into this thinking, man, those zombies look cheesy. Not one time. I didn't go in this and say, man, that acting is overacting or it's underacting or I didn't like it. Not one time. So to fit all three of those things into one film in the horror genre is extremely rare, I think. And I think even if you go into like action films, you're not going to get that. Most action films are popcorn movies. Like, I love The Expendables and I love action films. I even love John Wick. But that emotional tie and that build of heartstring pulls, even in John Wick, is not the same as this. So I think this movie just is like what Tasha said. It's an outlier in the sense of what you're getting in comparison to a standard zombie film, because it has so many more levels and layers to it, just from in every standpoint, essentially, in my opinion. So,
well, I think we all know who everyone's favorite character is, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is it Muscle Dad?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, what do you got, Tasha?
The daughter.
Really?
Yeah, she's great. Yeah. She's great.
Because she's ballsy.
Yes.
She is.
She's telling her dad what's up, that we need to save people, not just think of ourselves. She's she's very like social. She's giving to the old lady, to giving her seat, and then she does the same thing to the pregnant woman. She up and like meets Muscle Dad, and then like goes to the other area. She's very brave throughout all of this, and she's very mature for seeming like maybe an 8-year-old.
Yeah, she's definitely in like the first few grades of elementary school.
Yeah,
she's very.
And it's her birthday.
Her birthday.
Yeah.
Her dad got her a gift she already had. Like, that's relatable to me as a mom. Like, there were so many things. Yeah, the girl is definitely my favorite character. Muscle Dad is totally like my favorite adult, but across the board, she's my favorite.
Yeah, she's a great character, and her acting is superb. Like in this, especially for being a child. Like I don't usually have really high expectations for kids in movies. I don't expect them to hit every time. But I hope she has a very long career in acting, because she was phenomenal.
Yeah, and obviously least favorite character, and not least favorite in the sense of
likability.
Yes, not as in depiction or acting.
Because he's a phenomenal actor.
His actual name is Kim Yoo-sung, and he plays Yeon Suk, the businessman. Is that everyone's least favorite?
Yeah, he's a douchebag, but man, he's such a good actor. My gosh,
I cannot think of a movie. I can't think of a character in recent watching of movies that I have felt so angry at.
Correct.
And like I said earlier, like I wanted him to like pay the price for all of his nonsense, to die a very slow, aware death. And unfortunately, we didn't get that.
No.
We did get a little bit of him like breaking and being like vulnerable, which I thought was a nice touch where you see him scared finally.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see him scared like that, wanting to go home and then just get ripped to shreds by somebody.
See, in that's where you would really like the movie Day of the Dead that came out in the 80s. It's the third movie from the Night of the Living Dead universe or whatever.
Which one are they in the mall?
The mall, that's Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
Dawn of the Dead's in the so real quick, you got Night of the Living Dead in the 60s, you got Dawn of the Dead in the 70s. They ended up making a remake in the early 2000s. Day of the Dead's in the 80s. So in that one, they're kind of like on this military island and everything, and there's this like just shitty like military officer the whole fucking time, right? And he's just this horrible person. And it gets to the point where like a door opens behind him, he gets mauled by zombies, and you watch him get torn in half. Now, he is a shitty character. Yeah, he's a shitty character, but he also has the best dying line ever as they're tearing him apart. And he's like, "I hope you choke. I hope you choke," as they're eating him. And I'm just like, even in death, you're a bastard.
Right, he's still spiteful.
Yeah. I think, Tasha, you were saying like the businessman at the end was showing vulnerability. I think the whole time all this was ego. So like he was just scared out of his fucking mind the whole time and putting on this mask. So I think basically getting bitten and then having to like succumb to his virus was different.
And he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know that he's turning, and that's where the fear of his mortality kicks in.
Yeah.
Because he is definitely doing the preservation and stuff, and he's just doing what he has to do to survive because he's trying to get back to his mother, right? Like his mom lives with him or something. Like he's just trying to get back to her, which we can all understand, right? And then once shit hits the fan, like it's just like, fuck everybody, I'm getting back there. Like I have to do this, but at what cost? Literally the lives of basically everyone he comes in contact with.
And I do think, like you said, there are people that would react like that in a crisis. There are personality types that will go that route. There are personality types that in a crisis are going to jump in and run toward it and start to help. Like
Muscle Husband does that through the whole fucking movie.
This movie does that beautifully.
Yep, I agree.
And the dad definitely in a different point of the film is the businessman, because when he's in the position to be selfish, he is. He no longer is in the position to be selfish and is one of the outliers, and that's where his character development.
Yeah, well, he gets fucking called out by Muscle Dad. So like their muscle husband, he's like, he just fucking like essentially talks shit to him throughout the movie because he's just like nitpicking at him, and the whole time
calling him like jerk and jerk off.
Yeah.
And he specifically says that like this person knows how to leave the little man behind.
Yeah. And so it's good that he calls, like, the muscle guy is such a strong character in this because he calls him out, because he's the hero of the story, essentially. And that's why at the end, when he goes and basically sacrifices himself for everybody and he gets bitten and he's just like, fuck this, I'm just going to stand here and take what I can. And then he's like going to tell his fucking wife what their baby's name is because she's supposed to name it, and he doesn't get it out. I'm like over here crying because I'm like, she doesn't know the name of their baby. Like, it's so sad. And I was so sad that he died, because I was like, I was hoping that like he would be one of the final people, at least towards the end. And
that's not how these movies work.
No, I knew he was gonna sacrifice himself.
I know, but we lost him too early.
He was literally made to be loved so much that it is going to hurt you when he dies.
I know. And he's the only one that I felt that way about, because like the dad is really sad, but they used a lot of like, they used the daughter to pull at your heartstrings, and they used his memories after he got bitten to pull at your heartstrings.
I thought that was kind of weak, personally.
Yeah, it was sad, and I know I was sobbing too, and only because it was the daughter that really got to me, because she was like, I felt so bad for her. Well, her screaming was good, but like just the emotional point of all of that, and like and then speaking on that area, like where they're doing all this, and the fight scene happens, and all of this on the train. The zombies running after the train and him trying to kick the hands off, the way the zombies jump on and they're just like piling on each other to be dragged behind this train. I was like, this might be one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie, because it was so unique and interesting just to see like the craziness of like, they are so determined that they're just like climbing over each other to get up there. And obviously they don't, but I really liked that scene.
just like mindless ants in a horde.
Correct.
I thought that whole train yard scene was just so epic with the explosion and just like the mass size of all of that. I loved that. And going back to the dad, what really, really got me where, the flashbacks could be cheesy, but it's also like he doesn't have a relationship with his daughter, and now he does. And now that I'm getting emotional thinking about it, and now that he does, he dies. And that is the most painful thing, is after it took this crisis to become close to your child, and now you don't get to reap any of the benefit of it. And the way that they did it, the way that he falls off the back of the train, I thought added to the emotional component of it, where
the
it's
silhouette aspect and
it's
everything.
quiet. The silhouette of him just dropping really was beautifully done.
And can we go back to the fact that he died on his daughter's birthday? Like and his mom died, and like it's just what the fuck?
And he doesn't say what really. And this might be a cultural thing, but when he's leaving the front, when he's leaving the daughter and the pregnant woman and like going out to then turn, I hated that he didn't say goodbye or didn't say I love you. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, but as she's screaming, there really isn't any like consoling. I don't remember, or like it'll be okay. It was just, done. Stay with her, survive.
I think
I need to go now.
I think it's a matter of making it less painful on the timeline that he doesn't know that he has.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think it's like hugging her, saying
I have to
stay
get the
with
fuck
her.
out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
like,
just so
he
heartbreaking.
literally walks in there and it's like, pregnant lady points out, like, he's like, this is go, this is stop. You see people, do this, take care of her, and then fucking is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like he has to stay task oriented so he doesn't break.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then just like kill both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And we haven't even touched on this, but actually there is an unsung hero in this movie, and that's the train conductor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like he
Fucking
literally
businessman.
I know.
like he's literally just trying to get them where they need to be. And it's like, it's so barely like focused on until they get to that train yard, and he's like telling them, I'm gonna, like, he literally is like, he doesn't ask for anybody else to go like scout. He's like, I'm going to go find a different train and we are going to move. It's going to be on this side, whatever. And he's just like, I'm fucking out of here. Like, I'll let you guys know if I find anything, because you'll see this train. And then, he gets fucking sacrificed by the businessman.
Well, the businessman gets bitten at the same time. So that's when he also gets infected. So
It's unsung hero.
He was.
Conductor.
Well, realistically, they wouldn't have been able to do anything or get anywhere if it wasn't for him. So he is the catalyst for all of that.
Yeah.
So, and then, well, so was the businessman. Wasn't he the one on the phone figuring out? Wasn't he the one on the phone that was trying to figure out like what was where? I can't remember, figuring out if like Busan was safe and that's where the military had set up. Like, or was that the dad? Or was it both of them? Or was it both of them?
They both were kind of doing the same thing.
I thought so. So like they were going where they were going in the beginning because of that.
The reason the businessman wanted to be there is because that's where he lives. It wasn't, it wasn't necessarily about the military outpost or anything like that. It literally, because he, like when he's freaking out there at the end and dying and stuff, he's giving out his address and
I knew
whatnot,
that.
and it's right there in Busan. So
but I thought he was looking into information because he was part of the railroad or whatever to figure out information to know what was safe. And then I know that the dad was too.
Yeah.
Like trying to figure out, like, while they were kind of cold in a lot of ways, and the businessman was a horrible person in this movie, there were parts of them that was being helpful to the whole crowd because it was selfishly being helpful to themselves.
Correct. And I think that's how his ultimately was.
Correct. Yeah.
But that was also the case with the dad and the daughter, because that's when the daughter calls out the dad about when they were all getting shuffled off the train, and then they're just like going down the escalator.
Yeah.
That was nuts. Where they're off to the side, that's when she's like, no, we have to tell these guys too to come, like in the train station. That part really got me when they're all going down, and then all of the like military men just turn.
Yeah.
Turn to them and start attacking.
It's basically your first oh fuck scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Which there's quite a lot of those scenes in this movie where you're like, it definitely does a good job of like setting up like, okay, they're safe for right now, and then it's just like, no, they're not fucking safe at all.
No, it breaks kind of rules sometimes.
Does it?
Yeah, because if you think about, not rules in like a bad way, but like things that you would standard like see, like they break through the fucking glass at the top of that damn station, and then they fall on top of the train. Like that you would not normally see in a lot of movies. They're like just literally fucking swan diving off the damn thing to get on the train.
I do like that because it shows a lack of life.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like human.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because they're not following like the rules of following through the building. They're like, fuck this, we're making our own rules. And like they do. And
They're
literally through this whole
point A
thing.
to point B in whatever way matters.
Yeah. And then I liked the whole night thing where like when they're going through the tunnels and they can't see now and they can't function like they're supposed to because of the light is not there. And like that part was really neat too, that they changed that rule was in this movie, and it really kind of helped them and worked in their benefit, because there really wasn't any other way to be able to
and it changes
to move.
It changes the tension from being a chase scene into a sneak scene. Like
correct.
You're getting like speed, and then you're getting stealth. So it does, like looking at it as a video game kind of.
Right.
Like,
yeah. There were a lot of times where it watched like a video game, especially when they're like crawling across the top of the luggage.
Yep.
Drew and I were laughing like how it was super smart, would have done it in video game, tossing the bag behind him so they all scatter. Drew was like, he was like, my luck, I would throw it and it would hit like the chair right in front of me.
It just scatters like right all over the place. And stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And the cell phone thing too. He's like leaves his cell phone and then calls it, and then they just run the opposite direction.
He takes Muscle Dad's cell phone.
I know.
He throws Muscle Dad's cell phone. He keeps his own.
I know. Well, there's that selfish component to that. So
son of a
yeah.
But.
So okay. So Tasha's favorite character in this is a little girl. Mine is obviously Muscle Dad. And what is yours, Nick?
Mine's the businessman.
No, it's
Honest
not.
answer.
Oh, okay.
I knew you were going to say that.
He
You're too
was.
predictable.
I know.
Okay. Realistically, if it were to be, I actually like the dad a lot. Like to see his character development and his ultimate, like, yes, Muscle Dad's great. He's meant to be great.
I know.
Yes. Businessman is shitty. He's meant to be shitty. But the fucking dad's character arc through it and everything, he is without a doubt my favorite character in the movie. Specifically because of that. I mean, like, you couldn't ask for a better depiction, or like the actor, his name's Gong Woo, fucking phenomenal. Like to see, like he emotes so well with his eyes and everything. It's so good. And there's so many times in the movie that you're just like, fucking Father of the Year, because he's just leaving his daughter while he goes and does other stuff, and then to see that stop happen, there's just a lot that I really like about that character. If that were any other person playing that role, kind of like I was joking about, like put Jason Statham in there.
Yeah.
You can't just be an action actor. Like there's such a dramatic presence in his depiction of the father in this movie that, he's without a doubt my favorite. The daughter and Muscle Dad are probably tied there. Pregnant wife is also really good. She does a really good job. I really love the dynamic between the pregnant wife and Muscle Dad, because she's just like, get your ass over here. Like it's very realistic in those aspects where like I love their like dynamic a lot.
It's so sweet and funny, and I just loved it.
It's those kind of things that makes it even worse when Muscle Dad dies, because you see he's got such a good dynamic with the dad or the father or whatever. And like just being like, oh, this guy, fuck this guy, you know, all this stuff. But at the same time, he's not like leaving him behind. He's always like trying to keep him with the group and stuff, which ultimately turns the father, and like, it just he
like rubs off on him, and he's like, he's almost like mimicking him and like taking in this really cool character's personality in a weird way, and be like, well, maybe I should be more like this guy, and he ends up being more like that guy. So
and he, like the way he interacts with the daughter and everything, like he's just all around like really good. But yeah, at the end of the day, it has to be Woo, I believe is his name, the father, the star of the movie, realistically.
Who do you think, if they did when they do the Americanized version, if they, use American actors, obviously, I'm assuming they're going to, who do you think would make it? I have an idea. Who do you think would make a good character of him? Like, who would play him well?
Of the father?
Of the father.
God.
Keanu Reeves.
You think Keanu Reeves?
I don't know. I have
60-year-old Keanu Reeves with an 8-year-old daughter.
Yeah. That could work.
I'm trying to think of action stars that also can play dramatic roles.
I wouldn't want an action star. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want an action star. I wouldn't want, because like instantly what comes to mind is like if America gets their hands on it, which they are and everything, it's like they're going to put Chris Hemsworth or some shit like that.
But also, you really wouldn't want that because they're not the lead action person. No, I'm taking what you're saying and just adding to it. It makes sense to not have a big action lead because that businessman dad isn't the action star. That's muscle dad.
That's muscle dad. Yeah.
No, I 100% understand that. What I'm saying though is that I can see them doing that.
Right.
It's not a thing of like what makes sense. It's what sells, like what puts butts in seats. Like that's my fear of it. Even though the director, like I said, that's doing it is known for being like he's an Indonesian director. I've got his name here somewhere, but having him tied on to, where the fuck is it? Oh, Timo, and I'm going to say the last name horribly wrong. I apologize in advance. It is spelled Tjahjanto. Tiansto, we're going to say, but Timo.
Okay.
But yeah, he's done like a lot of fucking cool like action films like The Night Comes for Us and Headshot, Killers. If you're familiar with horror films, he did the Safe Haven segment in VHS 2, which is one of the scariest things I have watched. And it's like a little short in a long fucking time. And it is, if you get a chance, VHS 2, the Safe Haven segment is basically this cult that these people go and check out, and it goes straight to hell. Like it is, and it's like a short film because the VHS series is like an anthology series. So like VHS 2 is like 4 or 5 short films.
Okay.
Gotcha.
With like a little wraparound. But yeah, that one's really good. So knowing that about it, I hope that the Hollywood system doesn't do it, but I'm really scared.
How would you feel about Alexander Skarsgård?
I know you would want him.
I would love that. I think he would do really well.
No, not Alexander Skarsgård at all. His younger brother, Bill Skarsgård.
That would be good too.
Bill Skarsgård would be all right in it. I'm trying to think. What about he's having a resurgence and stuff like that? Was it Robert Pattinson?
Robert
Pattinson, yeah, from fucking Batman and stuff. Because
I think he's too big of an actor. Like he has a portrayal in the Twilight series. He'll always be
what's his face?
Edward Cullen.
Batman and stuff.
But he's not. He's Edward
Cullen. Yeah,
I know,
kind of.
But I mean, like, because like if we compare this to World War Z, right? Because that's the one that it gets compared to. You got Brad Pitt as the lead in that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to kind of
it's not. You can't put a Brad Pitt in this position. So
I prefer a no-name actor. Or like a smaller
I don't
actor.
see that happening.
I don't either.
That's the thing. Yes, I would far rather it be like some up and comers and stuff like that, but I just have a bad feeling that you're going to get like some big name actor.
Tom Hiddleston.
Of course you want Tom Hiddleston. Do you know who should be the bad guy?
Who?
Nicolas Cage.
Oh my God, no.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Nick, have you seen, I think it's called Retirement Plan?
Not
yet.
It
just came out. We haven't seen it yet. Did you see it?
Yes, I like it.
Is it good? Okay.
Yeah,
we were talking about it the other day.
And I love his character.
He plays in everything. I swear this man never goes away. That's so funny.
I think it might have been because it was soon after Mom's birthday that I watched it, but it kind of vaguely reminded me of Uncle Chuck. In the beginning of it, just like his demeanor. That's all.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, God. Do you know what's going to happen? Do you know what's going to happen?
Oh, no.
It's going to be starring Tom Cruise. That's what's going to happen.
No.
Yep, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Pedro Pascal, because then that would stay in the same realm of like zombies.
Put your fucking pants on.
So good. I love him.
He's too busy being Reed Richards in the new Fantastic Four movies.
No, what?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll watch anything
know
he's
about
in
that.
probably because I just
know.
love him.
I wasn't interested in seeing the American remake until I saw Timo was directing it, and I like went back and I was like, oh shit, I love the stuff that I've seen of his. So I'm definitely
I
psyched
want to see it just
I-
to see.
Compare.
Yeah.
but
Okay.
girls want to give your reviews of this
Yep.
movie. We can get some homework and get the fuck out of here.
And some question stuff. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right, go ahead, Steph. You can go ahead and start.
Oh lordy, no, I don't want to do that because I want to hear what
I
you
don't
guys have
care
to
what
say
you
first.
want. I don't
I'll
care
go
what you
first.
want.
Okay, Tasha, thank you.
I'm giving it an 8.5.
Oh,
Holy
say
shit.
yay!
Yes, I absolutely loved this movie.
I'm gonna write that down.
When it comes to movies, Nick, you said you want viscera. I want feels. So this did it for me. I can't think of a better zombie movie that I've ever seen. Because a lot of them are slow paced or like you have big scenes with like hordes, but this was from start to finish. It was fast. I really liked that about it. I loved the character development. I loved the CGI components of it. I thought were really well done. It didn't seem over the top or like it didn't pull me out of it, especially the train yard scene. The gravity of the like emotional components was beautiful. I hated, like we've talked about, I hated the businessman, but I hated him so much. I was angry at certain parts of the movie. That doesn't happen very often. I was completely engrossed in this movie from start to finish. I cried. Whenever there's a movie that makes me like emote that much, it's going to get really high praise. So I stick to an 8.5. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to watch it again. I'm excited to share it with other people. Nick, this is your best recommendation.
Yay!
That's high praise.
Did Drew feel the same way as you?
Yes, Drew had
Okay.
actually already seen it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Yeah,
he was in for it. He was ready to go.
It's a pretty popular film. Like, I was building to this for Foreign Film February. I knew that this was going to be the end of it. And I wanted to be, like I said earlier, I wanted the beginning to be like, I have no idea. That's all of us jump in the deep end a little bit and then just work our way to something that I knew, not saying that I knew that you were going to fucking give it an 8.5, but something that I knew that you guys would be like, this is my jam.
Yeah, the zombies, I loved the way the zombies looked. I loved when the lights went off, they were still and dormant. So there's like this hive, animalistic kind of like hive brain mentality about it. I thought that was really cool. The different layers of the personalities was really well done. You could pull so much social commentary from this one movie. It's very good.
I agree.
It's very,
The depth of this movie was just immaculate. I love that. And I think the filmography, there wasn't anything I complain about. Like, there's not a single thing. I mean, other than you don't like certain characters, but like that was the intention behind their characters.
Right. They're not meant to be liked.
No.
The writing was beautiful.
Yeah, for real.
Well, it's one of those things, just real quick, like the thing that people say about like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's like, I don't like any of the characters. It's like, you're not meant
You're
to.
not supposed to.
They're
Exactly.
fucking horrible people. Like,
Yeah.
I love that television show. It's not for everybody, but I love that television show. But they are all just fucking horrible.
I
Yeah,
know.
Shameless is another beautiful example of that.
Yes.
Like the main character in that is a piece of shit and you love him for it.
Yeah.
All right, Steph, what do you got?
Okay, so I was in the same area with Tasha. Like, I really liked this movie. I honestly, after we watched High Tension, I was like, man, Nick says we're going to like this movie better. I don't know if I'm going to believe him because I really liked High Tension. I thought that movie was really good. And I liked the twists and turns in that. And this one definitely has a lot of character development. And I appreciate that. Just that part alone, on top of everything else, this is a very well made movie. Like I told my 15 going on 16-year-old about it, and she was like, yeah, because I was like, I think this is something she would watch. She's not normally a horror watcher, so her and her boyfriend, I think, are going to watch it tomorrow. So I hope that they like it because it's really good. I'm going to give this an 8 because I would rewatch it, and I think it was just really well made, and I appreciate that about it. So.
For me, I've said kind of everything that I've got about it. For all of its top tierness and stuff, like visually it looks great and everything. I wish it were a little bloodier. That's like it. I wish it were scary. Like, I think that's the thing. I wish that the scenes, specifically like when it's dark and they're getting through the train or the car and everything, I wish that was played a lot more tense and stuff like that. This isn't my favorite zombie film by a long shot. I do like this movie, but I'm going to give it a 7.5 because this is definitely one that I can throw out to anybody. Like, have you ever seen Train to Busan? No? All right, do yourself a favor and go watch this movie. You're going to like it. Me as a fucking horror degenerate, I want it to be gloopier. I didn't necessarily want it to end the way the guy said, where the kid dies and all this stuff. Like, I'm not going to say that it needs to be a darker film. I just wish that when people are getting got and stuff like that, it was more visceral and stuff like that. It would have gotten an extra point probably if it were to be that. Like, for instance, you know, if the big bad, the businessman, got like fucking ripped apart, or like when you see him get like thrown off the train or whatever, you know, like it's like he goes under the fucking train and you know, like that kind of stuff. Something like that for me. Like, I just need some gloop in my day. That being said, I'm giving it a 7.5.
Yeah, I think that with this movie, with what you're talking about with like the bloody parts, there isn't much at all. But I think it's just trying to stay in like the same realm of like more realistic. They're real. Like, if this was a zombie apocalypse that was with the virus stuff and somebody was just biting them and jumping on them, blood isn't going to do what it does in some of the movies we watch. This isn't like Evil Dead 2. Like, I mean, it's definitely toned down a little bit. I wish there would have been a little bit more, but I think that it just stays on with like, they're not there to, you know, throw body parts everywhere. They're just there to feed, and it's not the necessity isn't there for this.
And they're
movie.
not even feeding. Right. They're not even feeding.
Yeah, they're just destroying.
Yeah, just infecting. If you watch this movie and you're kind of like me and wish that it were more graphic and blah blah blah, and maybe you want a more downer film, I would suggest checking out the I believe it's Indonesian film, The Sadness. It is way gloopier. It is way darker. It is way more fucked up.
Noelle really liked that movie too.
Yeah,
she said that was really good.
It is not for everybody. I'm going to let you know that right fucking now.
I'm never watching that movie.
But yeah.
Back to the not gloopiness of the zombies. I did like I guess, I don't even want to call it shock factor. The surprise that pops up is probably a better term, where like in some cases, the passengers on the train are so confused that they don't realize what's happening. Like when the attendant is, I think the attendant's on somebody's back as they're running through the train, and people are so not expecting it that it's shocking in its own right. Or like I said, the horde as you're coming down the escalator. I think they did that where it's like an emotional connection, or not emotional connection, but like it hits you
it takes
that way.
Yeah.
As opposed to ripping people apart. It's done in a, like Steph said, in a more natural, this is probably maybe how people would react more so than seeing people on the side of the road just tearing people apart.
Correct. I agree. I think that's what it's supposed to do. It's trying to make it feel more realistic. And I know that's weird to say that because we're watching a horror movie that's about a zombie apocalypse. Like, come on, guys. But they're not eating brains and we're not doing all this crazy stuff, and they're fast and like all these different things. And I do think that that's the point of it. Even in the train car where the girl gets sacrificed and he's like holding her and she just leans over him. There's a little bit of blood, and like they do really well with the veins in this movie. Like when they're, you know, turning, essentially, you can see the
infection spread.
Yeah, I love that. And like, and especially like the bites are really well made. Like they are bloody, but they're not gory. Like there's blood to the surface and all that stuff. But I loved all of that. And when the boy gets bitten from the girl and he basically just like gives up and there's no hope left. That scene, you don't see a whole lot of it, but it's just enough like to allude to it being bad and like sad. And I don't think this movie needed to be gloopy, even though I do wish, you know, maybe a little bit more blood. But I get what Nick says because he likes his movies that way.
Yeah, I do. Right. That being said, though, when people are turning, I do like the seizing of the body. Mm-hmm. That is gross. I like that because that's like to see somebody convulse like that and shit. That shit's very bothersome. And they definitely show it a lot. So that I think that's the most bothersome part of the movie is when you're seeing someone like convulsing to death, like because it is literally like death throes and stuff,
Mhm.
and then they come back.
And then
But-
their contortions, like when they're like going
So
after
cool.
people, it's so cool. Like it's so well made. I love that. So yeah. Okay. So let's.
Well,
we're
hold on. So
Okay.
so what's that? We've got. I believe that comes out to 24 points. Is that right?
That comes out to an 80%.
Nice.
Jesus.
So
yeah,
this-
that's pretty
this-
high
That's
for
a
us.
B.
Yep. You will definitely like this film.
Yeah.
You will actually be in the minority by a lot, I think, if you don't
Mhm.
like this movie. I
Correct.
think this is definitely one of those movies that I talk about sometimes where it's like they try to appease a lot of people. Usually that doesn't work out. This one it does, because they're like, all right, we're going to throw in some horror, we're going to throw in some action, we're going to throw in some drama, and they do it all well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
None of it feels forced.
No.
No, it's a very natural,
Mhm.
like
It's
kinda
executed very
nice
well.
pocket.
Yes. Yeah. And this is one of the higher rated movies I think we've all agreed on. Like
I
I know
think it's in the
Scream
top
was one
3.
of them. Yeah. And then there's been a couple other ones. But yeah, usually there's one of us that's like, no. And or it's like me and Tasha are like, this movie sucks. And Nick's like, it's amazing. So
Yeah, don't worry. There'll be more of those where that came from.
Ah, fuck.
that happens a lot
Not-
more than you
not,
think.
not next month, though. Not next month, because
Oh yeah.
yeah, next
No
month.
unsolicited Nick pics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why doesn't anyone want to look at my Nick pics?
Oh lordy. Okay. So do we want to do the homework or do you want me to do the question thing really quick?
Do the question thing real quick, and then we'll throw out homework and we'll get the fuck out of here.
Okay. So we are essentially trying to build a relationship like Nick talked about with you guys. We have a movie club here and we want to talk to you guys about movies and we want to talk about what you like in movies. And we also want to share our stuff as well. So this is creating a community, not just us talking to you through, wherever you're listening to us. So we have some questions that we want to pose for you. So we're going to ask it on here and then we're going to post it on our social media for you to be able to give us your answers. And then
And we'll answer it next week. Is that right?
Yeah. I think we're going to try to do that. I think that's kind of where we're at. And then hold on, let me look at this thing on here real quick because you posted something. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to ask the question and then, we're going to answer it next week. And hopefully you'll go on our post and then we can talk about what you talked about too. That'll be fun. So if you could face any horror movie, monster or villain in real life, like in our world, who would it be and why? That's a good one.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
I've got my
so-
answer.
Okay. So we will answer that next week and we will talk about it then. Hopefully, with the way things are going, because we're just adding this, that we'll be doing it towards the end of our episodes. So, and now we will talk about next week's homework.
So for homework, for no unsolicited Nick pic March, rolls off the tongue so well.
It does. It's so catchy.
We're starting off with a Steph pick, and we will be watching A Quiet Place.
Okay. Yes.
I have not seen this movie.
Me neither.
I have preconceived things that I will set to the side and talk about
yeah.
during the episode.
Yeah.
but-
I'm curious to see.
But there's
if
there's a reason that I haven't watched this film, and I'll talk about it next week.
I know.
Okay.
You're ridiculous.
So,
Well then.
with that being said, watch A Quiet Place. I believe it's like on Netflix and shit like that.
It's probably
Um,
somewhere. Yeah.
And come back and listen to us next week, and we'll talk about it and everything.
Yes.
For Pod of the Dead, I am Nicholas.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tasha.
Come back and listen to us, or else.